If you love ancient history, then this is the channel for you. History Hit TV. It's like Netflix, but dedicated just to ad-free history documentaries, including a huge library of ancient history content from the 9th Legion to Boudica to the First Britain. Simply check out the details in the description below and make sure you use code Odyssey on sign up.
This is Ffrith in North Wales. It's a small village of about 400 people with a main street, about 3 other streets, no shops and 2 pubs. So they've got their priorities right here. Anyway, back in the 1960s, in the back garden of this house and a few other houses down the street, some local archaeologists dug some trenches. Come on, this way. Underneath that concrete and under that glass house, they discovered a series of walls and some bits of pot and tile and some Roman coins, and they thought they'd got a Roman bathhouse. But is it? And if so, what's it doing here? Time Team have got just 3 days to find out. Ffrith is here in North Wales, just across the border from Chester, the centre of Roman occupation in the northwest. People have been finding little Roman bits and bobs here for centuries, but the reason that the local archaeologists want us to dig here is because they think this is really special and it's never been properly excavated. Harry, have you any idea how important your garden actually is?
No idea at all. I just believe there's some Roman walls underneath and that's about it, really.
What have we got?
Well, we've got a collection, as Harry says, of Roman walls, so excavations carried out here in the 60s, and we found various plans which show possibly some rectangular buildings, possibly a circular building, possibly a building with an apse on it, a semicircular projection on one side. But the fact of the matter is, we don't really know what the building is.
What's that look like to you, Mick?
Well, it's been suggested it's a bathhouse, but I think the problem is all the plans are different. And really, if we're going to understand it, we ought to re-excavate it and see what it looks like in the ground.
Is that good archaeology, to re-dig something that someone's already dug?
Yes, in this case, where we're trying to reinterpret this building, we're trying to work out what this might be, I think it's a very good case for going back to these trenches and looking again, seeing what we can find.
What's your priority for this morning?
Well, the first thing is to actually check any records that we got and to actually try and survey in where the walls are supposed to be, so that we actually know where to put our trenches. I've got a sneaking feeling it's going to be under the greenhouse myself.
Harry, do you love your greenhouse and your concrete and your lawn?
I've got a feeling that I did love my greenhouse, my grass and my concrete, so I think it's going to go.
Soon there'll be no more. Say bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
The evidence from the 60s is very strong. These are all walls which they found. When they joined the dots, they came up with this shape, which resembles the layout of Roman bathhouses found elsewhere in the country. We plan to look for these walls. Then we'll try to find other sections of wall to see if the dots are all joined correctly. If they are, then we've got a bathhouse here. Our first problem, though, is working out exactly where the walls are.
Your wall should be, if we take a straight line through that one there.
It's going to be best off buildings.
And a straight line coming through there. Where they intersect.
That's coming to about there, isn't it?
So, in other words, that Roman wall, well, at least it's not underneath your greenhouse. It looks like it's underneath your path.
Can you not get rid of the greenhouse anyway?
Well, we can do that as well. we can do that as well. But you don't mind the path coming up?
Not at all, no.
We'll give you a quote on a greenhouse.
That's fair.
This is where we'll dig in Harry's. Across the fence in another garden, there are 2 more important walls. This long one and this one in the corner. Taken together, they look like they're curving.
There you go.
We're beginning to dismantle Harry's garden. It's taking a bit of time because of the path and the stuff around it.
Then out comes the sun again, look. Nice now, isn't it?
Next door, Phil's moving a bit faster. He just had grass to go through.
Oh! Big old stone again there, look.
I think you're in danger of having a wall there, Phil.
Danger.
The fence between the two gardens just has to go. It'll be easier to work without it. The village itself runs north-south, and the main street follows the line of Offa's Dyke. The Dyke, built in the 8th century, is now under these houses. Behind them is the village playing field. It was scheduled as an ancient monument because Roman material was found along the edges. The authorities have given us permission to have a look at it. Well, it looks as though we've got some people working here already.
Well, somebody started 20 years ago. They've already done the
Oh,
geophys.
crikey. Is it any good, though, John?
Well, it's rather crude. I mean, they've actually presented the results by stippling with a pen. It was
Right.
pre-computers.
Yeah.
Can you see anything on it?
Well, look, these thicker dots are presumably where they've got higher readings. It's resistance survey,
Right.
so that could be stone buildings.
Can you tell anything from it?
Well, it's quite encouraging, to be honest. I mean, it suggests we need to resurvey the area.
So you've started that already?
Yeah, we're on with it.
Yeah.
What do you rate on this place?
Well, this is the biggest open space in the village, and although it's got ridge and furrow covering it, it's very shallow. It won't have destroyed much, and if John's happy that we can get good geophysics results, then it's the best place we've got.
The walls found here aren't the only evidence of Roman occupation. Hypercoarse tiles used for underfloor heating, particularly in bathhouses, have been turning up for hundreds of years. And in the 60s, they found masses of stuff, 41 boxes of it, including shed loads of pottery. We begin to sift through the old finds for clues as to what might have been happening here. This little lot looks pretty random. Does it tell us much?
Much more than I thought it would to begin with. You see that little brooch, broken? It's just the kind of thing you might find on almost any Roman site in the country. So it wouldn't tell us anything more than that the place was Roman. But these are really important. These are bronze fittings from Roman armour. So it means there were soldiers here.
Is there anything here that tells us there was anybody else other than soldiers, though?
Well, unless they were very camp. There's all these glass beads which suggest that there was somebody wearing necklaces or jewellery, and also these bone hairpins. So I think there must have been women.
What about the rest of this stuff?
Well, of course, what brought us here was traces of buildings. I mean, that's what we know about. Now, there's a building tile which has a military legionary stamp on it, but there's also wall plaster. But rather nicely over here, we also have the remains of a bronze key. So clearly, there is a structure.
What's this little thing here?
Every time you wrote an official document or a religious document, something that was important to you, you would tie the document up with a piece of string, run it through this little box, pour wax into it, stamp your seal on it, and then bring over the lid. It's evidence for reading and writing, but possibly also of official documents, which is exactly what you might expect in an important site associated with the army.
It's pouring down now, so the incident room is suddenly very busy.
Yeah, well, it's the problem when you're actually outside.
Stuart and Henry are looking at the overall topography.
So this is a 3D map of the area.
Victor, Ray-San and Sally, a Roman baths expert, are looking at what a bathhouse might have looked like.
The example we found, which is Ashton, it's got the most similar layout, although it's half the size.
And John has now got some geophys results for the playing field.
These are results from 20 years ago. That's our area we've surveyed. Now, if you compare the two, take their results. Almost perfect match. Very, very similar, aren't they? I mean, it really is good. Yes, it is. It must be the same anomaly that we're seeing. You could look at that and say you've got 3 rectilinear buildings aligned to the main street there. Or it could be you've just got an outcrop of geology with ridge and furrow ploughing cutting through. Coming through it, because you can see ridge and furrow on some of the aerial photographs, can't you?
Yes, you can feel it if you walk over it.
Yes, you can see it in the right light. I mean, the only way to find out is to dig it.
This is where John suggests we dig. So Helen opens a trench. We hit the ridge and furrow right away, and then it starts to look very dodgy. Where John thought we might have a building, we found some stones. But what are they?
We thought that this looked like a shaped stone. What really kind of put the icing on it was it looked like this might be mortar, but the more we've cleaned it, the more that it's turned into kind of creamy mud, really.
Well, I tell you what, it doesn't look desperately Roman. It's not really squared off enough. It's not proper dressed in the way that you might expect good Roman stone to be made. It doesn't mean it's not. Oh, that just looks like a break on. That looks like an actual flaw in the stone. But there's something else much more important, really. I can't see any trace of Roman brick and tile. If you were on the site of a Roman building, you would almost certainly have quite a lot of fragments of that very obvious orange Roman brick and tile, and you've got none of that, have you?
So that could just be natural shaping.
Yeah, it's just not good enough, really.
The two gardens are coming along nicely.
Have you got anything yet, Matt?
Well, we've got a few random stones here, but they've still got modern bits of glass and stuff underneath them and stuff, so
keep going.
Yet at the moment, no.
Keep going, yeah. OK. Getting like the sun, isn't it? Oh, that looks a bit better, Phil. That looks like we've got on here, doesn't it?
Well, it is what you got on there, Mick.
That bit there, look, it's that curved bit of wall, isn't it?
Do you want to see what it looked like in the 60s?
Cool, dear.
Don't get it wet.
Here we are, yeah.
Look, it's exactly, we can marry this up precisely. I mean, there's this stone here, which is the long one in the middle, and there's these two here with this crack running between them, which are the two where the hand shovel is. We can actually say with some degree of certainty that that photograph was taken exactly where you're standing.
Right.
What we've got is exactly what they got.
So what do you want to do now?
We want to dig a trench over that side of the path, because from what we know, in the 60s they stopped here.
Right.
That over there is brand spanking new virgin ground, never been dug before. And that will answer the question of all this rubble. It will give us a continuation of the wall. It will also give us the inside of the building, and also it will give us a brand spanking new set of finds.
So we'll have the old wheelbarrows going up and down there, and then you'll put in another trench here somewhere?
That's right, yeah,
just
run it parallel.
This way. Would you say at the moment that this looks like an apse?
No, I don't think we've got enough of it to say that.
But we might know more with this new trench.
Yeah. I mean, we don't know. It would have to be butted onto something to be an apse, and we've no evidence of that at all at the moment.
For a very simple trench, it will solve a lot of our problems.
Yeah.
This is the wall Phil's found. In the 60s, another wall was found in this corner. Phil's new trench will provide the missing link between the two. If this lines up, we'll either have a circular building or one with an apse, a semicircular projection on one side. Any finds associated with it will give us a date for this wall. At the moment, we've no way of even knowing whether it's Roman or not. So, OK, the Roman army might have been here, but why here?
There are a number of possibilities. First of all, Ffrith is actually on the line of the main Roman road, which runs from the legionary fortress at Chester over there, down through the centre and up through this valley, on into central Wales and eventually the west coast. So, given the location, and it's also close to two small rivers, there's a possibility there was a roadside official lodging house or mansio where people could stay overnight and get changes of horses and vehicles. The other possibility is that there are extensive lead deposits in the area.
So basically the Romans had come here to plunder the raw materials?
If you like to put it that way, yes. Lead, of course, was important for all the pipes they would have needed for the water mains inside the legionary fortress, lining and baths and so forth.
Out in the playing field, Helen's opened a very large trench, but has very little to show for it.
We were thinking, were we coming down onto something structural or not?
It looks horribly natural. When I saw it at first, I thought, well, I wonder if this is not river gravel or even glacial gravel or rubble.
It's very loose and kind of churned up, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like something you might quarry out to build a road.
Well, exactly.
But we did have a bit of luck with some Roman finds.
Yeah.
Well, from here?
Yeah, from the top layers.
That's our star one.
That's your star piece of Roman.
But this was from very much higher up. This is from more like the ridge and furrow.
See, I'd have thought that was probably flower pot.
Well, yeah, it crossed my mind, but Guy identified it as good Roman stuff.
Right.
And then we got a few bits of modern brick and tile.
Yeah.
And here we are, a nice piece of Opus Signinum. Quite a big bit, really.
Right,
You can see all the flecks in it.
Yeah. But I mean, one piece of Opus Signinum doesn't make a Roman site,
No,
does it?
it's not in context at all. So it could have been brought in from somewhere else in the village, and we already know that there's Opus Signinum floors and there's heating systems and things.
Yeah.
So I don't know that we're very much further on.
These finds are the first evidence found by us of Roman occupation here. But the shortage of finds is very worrying. We'd expected more by this stage.
So are we really much further on?
Time to hit the pub. Nightmare weather.
It was terrible. Bridge and I thought we wouldn't be able to get to see anything at all, but because it was so kind of smeary and muddy. But once we got underneath the ridge and furrow, you know, we were kind of going for this thing that could have been a building or could have been geological. It was this really clear kind of loose hardcore stuff, which might have been natural, so not really pushing our knowledge forward much.
So what are you going to do about it?
Well, we're going to try and dig a sondage at one end of the trench.
Like a little inspection
Yeah,
trench?
to see if there's anything underneath that could actually be real archaeology.
And what about you? At least we've got our round Roman building.
Well, I'm not really sure that we have. I mean, I'm not really sure that it's round.
You mean it's straight?
Well, I'm not sure about that either. I mean...
What is it? Wiggly?
That's a very fair assumption. Look, at the moment, I simply don't know. It's going on. That's the prime thing. It is actually going on. Trust me.
How much have you had to drink?
Not enough.
So we came here because we got this magnificent round building. Now we discovered possibly not round, possibly not straight, could be wiggly, but at least it's going on.
Yes.
So what is it? We'll find out tomorrow. What was all that about then?
I don't know, just keep drinking, you know.
Yesterday evening, Mick and I had this bizarre conversation in the pub with Phil, where we both assumed he'd been drinking too much crazy juice, because we were trying to press him about the wall in this garden, about whether it's curved, about whether it's straight. He said it might be wavy, but now this is the extension, isn't it?
Yeah, this one here, yeah.
We've dug this new extension to try and find the logic of the wall. Phil, your wall, straight, curved or what?
I told you in the pub last night, Tony. I mean, I really did, and you don't believe me. It really is a bit of both. I mean, look, you can see on this printout, look, it's straight through there, and then it does actually go into a bit of a curve.
Yeah.
And you can actually see that on the ground. This bit here is straight,
Yeah.
and then when it gets beyond that bucket,
Yeah.
it does actually begin to curve.
The chap that dug this before had a piece of wall in the corner of the garden over here, didn't he?
Exactly. He was saying the whole thing was circular, and there was just like a little bit of the circle in that corner.
But if we've now got this wall across here, that can't connect with that, obviously, can it?
No, it clearly can't do that.
Yeah.
Funny old thing, isn't it?
Yeah, it's very peculiar. I mean, it doesn't look very much like a Roman bathhouse to me.
There's no demolition rubble. You'd expect roofing tile,
That's right.
plaster, you'd expect loads of stuff.
I mean, that wall there, the way it's built at the moment, looks as if it might be the base of a field wall between a couple of fields. It could be medieval or later, couldn't it?
That's great. We came here because we thought we had a site of possible national significance, a Roman bathhouse. And now you're saying it could be a wall round a field.
That's what that looks like to me.
What have we got in the next trench over here? Matt's just next door to Phil, but we've no idea if anything in his trench is related in any way to anything in Phil's.
That's looking like proper archaeology now.
Yeah, I think we've got undisturbed Roman wall there and undisturbed Roman floors at the bottom there.
Yeah, undisturbed Roman, but it's undisturbed Roman only since the mid-1960s when they dug it up last time.
Yeah, I guess.
Have you nothing new at all?
Well, over on that side of our little fence line there, we're not getting all this modern stuff, so I think the 60s trench probably ended about where that fence is. Right. And on that side, we've got proper kosher, untouched Roman building.
Not only Roman, but Jewish. So is this finished?
No, we've got a lot more to do. We're going to take out the bulk and the fence, join the two up, and then keep cleaning it.
Right. Come on. It's just weird, isn't it? Why did we make the mistake of assuming that this was a Roman bathhouse? Mick and I were just about to film getting into the car, as we do, and he walked round the back of it, And he looked down and he went, blimey, and burst out laughing. He's rushed off to get Phil. Come on, show him.
What's this? Don't you think this line of stones here is very similar to what you've got in there? It's probably the same line.
Ooh.
In other words, whatever that wall is, it's not going anywhere else, but it's coming down here.
It does line up, does it?
Well, we need to get Henry in, don't we, to ask him to look at it. Look, if you stand here, look, you can see the shed.
Hey?
If you stand over here, you can see the corner of the shed, look. So it must be going under this garage, mustn't it? Come out under the fence.
If he's right, it's not a bathhouse, it's a wall at least 15 metres long.
And it looks more like, again, like as if it's a field wall, doesn't it?
Who done it?
That's sort of here before the houses are put here.
Don't curve either, does it?
No, it doesn't. So we'll get Henry to plot it in relation to that and see what it looks like.
And we'll get back to what we were supposed to be doing. Come on.
Cup of tea. I'll see you later.
The wall that Mick tripped over is here. It looks like it lines up with Phil's here. Now the whole thing looks even less like a bathhouse wall. So, Mick, no bathhouse.
No, it doesn't look like it, does it? I mean, there's none of the characteristic features, you know, plasterwork, hypercourse tiles, anything like that you'd expect to get.
What do we do with this extension to the wall, if it is one?
I think we'd pop a little trench in anywhere and see if it's related to any Roman structures, you know. We don't need to dig a lot to demonstrate that.
But wouldn't it be on an old map if it's medieval?
Well, yes, I wondered about that. But you see, there isn't a tithe map for the area. The tithe map's usually drawn about 1840.
Yeah.
And normally they show the situation before all the villages come in, before roads are laid out. But there isn't one for this area. So we don't have an early map that might show it. It's just, you know, unfortunate.
Stuart, major time team crisis. The bathhouse isn't a bathhouse.
Why shouldn't that surprise us after all these years?
Is there anything about this place that we actually do know?
Well, there is. I've been looking at some excavations which were done just where you've driven in, on Offa's Dyke. There was some done in the 20s and some done fairly recently, which were properly recorded. That's the important bit. And what they showed, you can see in the photograph here, that's where the trench was cut, that Offa's Dyke, which was built in the late 8th century.
Something like that, yeah.
It was built almost entirely of redeposited Roman material, pottery, finds, brooches, all this sort of thing. This is the original ground surface. Offa's Dyke, this has got all this redeposited Roman material in it.
Yeah.
Where did it come from? We know elsewhere that Offa's Dyke's got a ditch on that side.
And is this where the road is now?
Yeah, the road would take up about that much there. So I think what's happening is they're digging all this material out of here, popping it up there. So do we have Roman activity over here?
So you think they've dug through a Roman settlement or something here when they're actually digging the ditch for the dyke?
Whether it's a settlement is another issue. It could be rubbish pits, could be waste, but it's definitely Roman.
Whatever it is, how does it help us?
What we need to be doing is looking on this side of the road over here, and we've got a piece of ground in there which is big enough to get into. It's got chickens in it. That's big enough to have a look at. Let's have a pop in there.
So far, we've been digging up here to the north. This is the chicken run Stuart's talking about at the southern end of the village. It's just opposite the spot where Roman material was found in the 1920s. So we pop a trench into the middle of that area. We open up the wall that Mick tripped over. It does seem to line up with Phil's and is on the same height. In the extension to Phil's trench, he's found the wall, but he's also found this ditch. Inside the ditch, we're coming across a range of good finds, and they're all Roman.
Piece of glass, could be Roman.
Oh, I'm sure it is actually. Look at that, you see the little projection on the side?
Yes.
And then the thinness of the glass, and also, I think you can make out some little air bubbles in it, very characteristic of Roman glass. What else?
And the star exhibit, a Roman brooch.
Oh yes, that's P-shaped, a P-shaped brooch. There should be another one of these on this side. So there's a gap down the middle, they join at the bottom for the tail here. But it is an unusual type of brooch, and I think it probably belongs to the late 2nd century and on into the 3rd.
Okay.
These finds give us some relief, but they date the ditch in Phil's trench. The wall is still a mystery. This gives Phil a bit of a problem.
I'm absolutely happy in my own mind that that's Roman. I don't know quite...
The ditch is Roman, but how can he get a date for the wall?
Clean up the section. Yeah. I've just had a thought.
I thought you'd gone pensive. It's usually a bad sign with you, isn't it?
It's just struck me.
Go on.
I wonder if we went through there,
Yeah.
whether we'd find the wall running over that ditch.
Because the angle's different, isn't it? So somewhere over there, the alignment of that ditch like that
That's right.
is going to meet the alignment of that wall like that, about where the spade
it.
is, in fact, isn't it? That'd be better, wouldn't it, than trying to perhaps clean it all up and not quite get the relationship. That would be better still.
It means shifting a lot more muck.
Yeah, but isn't it better to invest the time in that and get the answer rather than invest the same time in cleaning it up and possibly not getting the answer?
It's the right way to do it.
It is. It is.
So digging here might give us a point where this wall and this ditch cross. That way we'll be able to tell if the wall's Roman or if it comes after the Roman period. It's funny, 35 years ago, a group of archaeologists came here. They dug a load of trenches, got some finds, and then joined the dots together and conjectured that there was a Roman bathhouse here. And all these years later, we're doing exactly the same thing, digging trenches, finding stuff, creating pictures. The only difference is that the picture that we're creating is likely to be very different from the one that the earlier archaeologists did. We can confirm some of their findings, like this wall. But this one tears their theory of a bathhouse apart. And our investigation of the wider village is getting us nowhere. In the playing field, the sondage produced nothing. We're down to the natural. Down in the chicken run, Helen's got a few finds, but nothing much.
What do you think?
Yeah, that's a piece of Roman mortarium, the round mixing bowl with grits in the bottom. Yeah, excellent.
So that's the rim?
Yeah, that's the rim. You
Gonna
see
need to
the
clean
grits
it.
beginning to show through the dirt there.
Oh yes, those little white flecks.
Yeah.
But there's no evidence of any structures down here. This is all very worrying. In the north of the village, we're also having problems. The wall Mick tripped over isn't Roman. It's sitting on top of Victorian bricks. In Matt's trench, he's very unsure about what he's got.
It looks like mortar or something. I don't know. Do you want to have a look at that?
That looks much more like a very degraded wall plaster or something, a packing
Right.
into perhaps a timber building or something where all the timber's gone, or they've destroyed it in the 1967 excavation. But it doesn't have anything to do with that massive great stone wall, does it? I don't believe that's Roman for 1 minute. It's much too badly built, and I can't see a relationship between the two. Apart from the flooring, have you got any signs of anything structural there?
Well, it looks like I've got this dark patch here coming like that. It's clearly been cut into this.
A bit small though, isn't it?
It is quite small, yeah. Maybe it could. I mean, it could be the end of a beam or something like that. A small beam, post hole or something like that, maybe.
And now Phil's having some second thoughts.
Well, what do you think of that? It's turning again, isn't it? And we thought it was going to come through, yeah, somewhere like that. And what's it doing? Coming back like that. So, you wouldn't build a wall that close to the edge of the ditch, would you?
No, it'd collapse into the ditch, wouldn't it?
That's right. But if the ditch was already filled up, then you could build the wall. You wouldn't even know the ditch was there.
That's right.
In other words, the wall would have to be later. Might not be.
His wall isn't Roman either.
That in mind, anyway.
Because the ditch in Phil's trench is full of Roman material and the wall is right beside it, the wall must have been built sometime after the ditch filled up. So it's much later than Roman. So we've found this wall of Phil's, this of Matt's, and this where Mick tripped over. None of them are Roman. And we're running out of places we can actually dig. There's only one wall left from the 60s dig, and it's here, just outside Harry's garden. After this, we're on our own.
Hello, Chris. I think you've got some plans for me, have you?
Yeah, we've been trying to marry up these plans from the 60s excavation with the modern Ordnance Survey map here.
There's a quiet sense of desperation settling in. Our only hope of finding a Roman building may now lie beneath these Victorian bricks. Well, with one possible exception. There's only one part of the village we haven't touched yet. In front of the pub. Desperate times call for desperate measures.
What we've got is this sort of rectilinear arrangement.
Right.
Yeah?
Yeah.
There's reported Roman finds just over the road there.
Yeah.
I mean, that's such a positive result. I think we ought to
pop a hole in and have a look.
Which is what we do. And pretty soon, there's quite a crowd around having a look. Over in his new trench, Phil seems to be getting somewhere.
Well, that's solid enough, isn't it?
That is, isn't it?
I'd say you've got a good one there.
Looks like a mortar floor.
It does, doesn't it? It's nice and thick, isn't it?
And look, I was going to say that when I dug down in that hole there, it's still carrying on down. But
and this is a wall. God. And that's a mortared wall.
Exactly. Look, there's lovely bits of mortar there, all the way along. And it's still
nice.
Running.
It's going on under my feet here. Does that relate to this plan then that we were looking at before, where we've got this little stub of wall coming in here? Do you think that's what it is?
Well, I think it'll have to be, won't it? Gotta be.
At last, something decent for us to pursue tomorrow. Time to try out the second pub in the village. Harry? Tracy, if anybody deserves a drink, it's you two after what we've done to your garden. Wait, have you seen this? This is our star find so far. It's a dice, like a Snakes and Ladders dice, that's not been thrown for 1,800 years. Mind you, if we'd been chucking it, given our luck over the last couple of days, what would we have got? Ones and twos?
Oh, come on, Tony. At least 2s and 3s, I would have thought, you know.
And what about day 3? What do we get?
6.
I'll let you know tomorrow.
Oh, come on.
Day 3, and Mick and Phil are attempting to reach new heights.
I don't usually see the world from up here, Mick.
No, well, I know that. It's a special treat for you because it's your birthday.
It's not my birthday.
Well, it's still a special treat for you.
It is.
Last night, Phil hit one of these walls. He now needs to extend his trench, but doesn't know which direction he should take. Has he hit this wall or this one?
Yeah, that.
Ooh.
Yeah?
Oh, well, no, Joe, just looking. Just looking.
Yeah.
That isn't a return on that wall, is it?
On the right?
No. Going back on the left. Who have we got down there?
Matt?
Hello?
Can you just come in with your trowel and point a bit for us?
Now then, come forward towards the wall. No. Outside edge of the wall, that's it. Follow backwards. Back, stop. Does that return away from you there?
Through here?
Yes.
It's going on.
By your right hand, Matt, where your right hand is in your trowel, does it actually go on towards the garage then?
Yep, there it is there. Can you see the white there?
All right, well, that's my theory, scuppered
Still.
then.
And we've learned not to trust this, haven't we? I mean,
Well,
it might go straight on, which is what he seems to be implying.
Yeah, but, you know, I mean, It does look as though, at the minute, the best money is that that
is the
wall,
right-hand wall,
is that
yeah.
right-hand wall
Yeah.
is the one that we found.
Yeah.
So Phil thinks he's got this wall. He now needs to dig on this side of it to see if there's a floor here. There might be, given the shape of the adjoining walls. If there is a floor, we might just be able to get a date for the wall.
So this actually runs up to those sandstone blocks. We don't know whether it goes beyond it, but...
Right, have you got it? Oh, we have got it. Probably.
Do that again. That's the first time I've actually seen... I've never seen you move dirt before, Henry.
Really? I don't know about my trowel, is that right?
I suppose one must actually demonstrate to you how it's done, but you'll get there eventually.
The pub trench has delivered nothing. The geophysics we saw may well have been buildings from the 19th century. All we're left with is a pipe. And Harry's garden's beginning to look like it might not have much in it either. But Stuart, as always, still holds out hope.
I suppose you're wondering why I'm hijacking you. Yes, yes. Great surprise. Pleasant, but great surprise. I mean, I must confess, since we've been here, I can't really see where we are geographically.
No.
You know? I mean, we're not that far from Chester, and yet Chester's in the middle of a great flat plain.
Yeah, it actually seems miles away because you're in Wales as well.
Yeah.
I climbed up these hills yesterday on foot and it just about wiped me out.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Whatever type of settlement or activity we've got down in this village here,
yeah,
part of the key to it is where it sits in these two valleys that come together.
Where do those valleys go to?
Well, this valley up here heads north, eventually heads up towards Flint. And we know there's a big Roman industrial site at Penta Farm in Flint. This valley up here to the west, eventually...
That's the one with the railway viaduct at the bottom.
That's the one there, yeah. The valley heads due west.
Yeah.
And we know quite a few, about a day's march or so in military Roman terms, there is a Roman fort in that direction.
Ah, right.
And 15 miles in that direction is the big legionary base at Chester.
At Chester itself.
I think Chester is the key to what's going on down here.
But it'd be useful to have some sort of supply base, wouldn't it? You could send stuff off in different directions.
Right, yeah. So you've got to cross it, and you've got access through these steep valleys and across the terrain. But what else have you got here? I mean, why are they here? And I think in a way being up in the helicopter helps us, because when you're down in the gardens, it's quite hard for you to see.
Yeah.
But up on the far side, can you see all those quarry faces?
Oh, yeah.
That's all limestone that's been quarried away in the 19th century.
Oh, right.
Huge, great...
What's this, Carboniferous limestone?
Carboniferous. That's a huge, great blob of limestone there. There's a source for making lime here. And
which you'd need in building work in places like Chester,
exactly.
presumably. Yeah.
You're building this massive, great fortress in Chester.
Yeah.
Huge, great place.
With all the stone buildings with mortar and everything,
yeah. People forget nothing stands up if you don't put mortar in it.
Put mortar in it, exactly.
You need shed loads of limestone.
Yeah.
And this hill, it's the nearest source of limestone to Chester. It's a day's cart from here to Chester. That's why this Roman settlement down here is here. It's not a settlement, it's a mining community.
If Stuart's right, the settlement here might not necessarily have been made of stone. It may well have been more transient, more like a series of temporary buildings. By accident rather than design, we seem to have turned the archaeology of this place on its head.
Yes, we do rather, don't we? Parts of the site that were previously interpreted as a bathhouse now no longer seem to be a bathhouse, and may not even be Roman.
I don't have a problem with there being a bathhouse here. I mean, that's exactly what you might expect on an official building. There's all the records from the 1960s excavations of tiles associated with a bathhouse. We just happen not to be on it.
But aren't you just making the same kind of assumption that the archaeologists made in the 1960s? Just because there's a hypercaust here, that doesn't necessarily mean we've got a bathhouse, does it?
I didn't say it has to be a bathhouse.
Well, it sounded pretty much like it to me.
No, I think it's a possibility there's a bathhouse here, and I think that's quite likely given the description of the hypercaust tiles, which you might well expect.
What does the antiquarian actually say?
Near Hope, while I was writing this, a gardener digging somewhat deeper than ordinary discovered a very ancient work.
Guy, he doesn't say this place, he says near Hope.
Look, there was no Ffrith at that point. He didn't have the word to use. We are very close to Hope.
Yeah, there must be 100 places that are very close to Hope.
What, up on that hill?
Well, yeah,
no,
why not?
down here, this is where you have buildings. So this is one of the most likely candidates. And Roman buildings have been found
Oh,
here.
hello, suddenly it's one of the most likely candidates.
What's the difference?
You're doing exactly the same thing as them.
No, I'm not, because...
You are, of all of us, you are the person who says you can't make the kind of assumptions that archaeologists always make. Just because people have said something in the past, you don't just kind of dig and perpetuate this myth, and yet you seem to be doing exactly the same thing.
No, I'm not doing that. We've got the evidence here that they found a Roman site, which they thought was baths. We've got hypocaust tiles found on the site. What we have shown is that the people in the 1960s who took this material then found a couple of big hefty stone walls, assumed that was a bathhouse, which when we took one look at it, we realised that was a totally implausible association of the artefactual evidence, the documentary evidence, and the structure, which are completely separate.
Outside, Phil is at last making real progress with his stone wall.
Ah, Mick.
Yeah.
Come and have a look at this. I've been taking out all this brick rubble, which must be what they must have shifted in the 60s.
Yeah.
And look, in the side of their trench, look what I've got. Look, this beautiful mortar floor.
Oh, yeah, yeah. So it must be under this lump in the corner here, then?
Well, yeah, I mean, it probably goes all the way that way.
A room with a proper plaster floor in it, then?
Well, exactly. I mean, that unquestionably is in the building.
Yeah,
Now,
yeah.
the big question, of course, is whether or not this wall is the outside of the building or whether it's an internal partition.
Yeah.
What do you make of it, Chris?
Yes, I think we're certainly inside a fairly substantial Roman building, yeah.
I told Tony we were going to throw a 6 today.
You're right.
I wonder if we shouldn't have this block out here, Phil, with the machine to give you a bit more room to work there.
I reckon if we're going to move that at all, one good bloke would do the job as just as well.
Right. You don't mean me?
He doesn't.
No.
Or indeed me.
Oh, indeed you, yes.
And I expect you to use a shovel bigger than this.
3 days in, and this is all we've got left. Matt and Phil. We open another trench close to Phil's. This is a view we don't often show you on Time Team, but it's probably the thing we see more than anything else during the 3 days.
Right.
But when we came here 3 days ago, we thought that we were going to get a Roman bathhouse, and all we've got somewhere underneath Phil is that rather manky old wall.
Yeah.
You must be very frustrated.
Yeah, I think I am, because, you know, we've sort of worked our way through, you know, where to dig and what to look for and what evidence we've got and so on, and we still don't have a lot to show for it, really. But we're now in the area where, you know, most of the structures that have been recorded in the past have turned up. I mean, under this building here, for example, there was a hypercore system found, or probably under this building, somewhere in this area. And then over the back, where that house is number 1 on the end there, is where they found a lot of hypercourse tiles and a lot of finds, including glass and stuff like that. Plus, of course, you know, what we originally came to look at, which is back where Phil is. So somewhere in the middle of those 3 bits seem to be the logic of this trench here.
OK, so after 3 days, we're focusing down on an area about 7 metres from where we started. What happens if we don't find anything here?
Well, we may not do. We may not do. I mean, don't build your hopes up, because you see where Phil is there, it's sort of dropping away from him. It's quite likely when they built all these buildings that they planed it all off. Maybe that the material we've got in the finds that people have hung on to and the museum's got is all that's left, because the rest of it's been removed. That's why we've put this trench in here through this gravel, because there's not much on the geophysics in there. Part of the reason is that we may have the bottoms of features that show us that it has been planed off.
So it's fingers crossed time.
Yeah, but, you know, it's the process of sort of, you know, trying to find out what's there.
3 days ago, this was our starting point. A map of stone walls joined together by archaeologists and historians in a way that suggested a very big bath complex in this area. We now know that they were wrong. Most of these walls weren't even Roman, except for this one. But then, just when we thought that was it, Bridge, things starting to come together in your trench?
Yeah, it's absolutely brilliant. Look, we've got a Roman ditch coming up here.
Yeah.
Just uncover what looks like a Roman post hole, and the piece de resistance is this piece of daub.
Daub as in wattle and daub?
Yeah.
So where would the wattle have gone?
2 pieces would have fitted just in there.
It is extraordinary how things always start to come together towards the end of day 3. And it being day 3, we've got, as usual, 3/4 of the local population. But what's so strange is that in addition to all the things that we've got in Bridget's trench, in Matt's trench, we've got something similar. What have you got for us?
Well, we're down on the bottom clay floor here, and if you look really carefully, you can see these circular, evenly spaced stains, and that's where wooden stakes would have been, and they'd have held up a small wall, a partition wall or something like that.
So there is Roman here. It's just much more ephemeral than we thought it would be. It's wattle and daub and mud and post holes. It's not made of stone. The post holes in this trench are Roman, and they explain why we haven't found much. It's all gone. What we're left with is one wall and some floor.
Phil, I've seen loads of walls on this dig, but that is the only one I'd label as Roman.
I know, it's a cracker, isn't it?
It's terrific.
Absolutely cracker. And I mean, we got the inside and the outside. But the really nice thing, what do you think of that? I reckon that's a tessera.
You know what, I think you're right. You've got the flat surface on the top here. You've got the mortar around these sides here. But I do think it's been broken off on that side. So it should really be square like that. But I don't think I can recreate a brilliant mythological scene on a mosaic pavement out of that.
If that is a tessera, it means absolutely cast iron. We got a mosaic floor in this building.
No, it doesn't. It means we've got a tessellated pavement, probably of one colour, like down a corridor.
OK, that to me is a mosaic.
Well, yeah, but you don't get brightly coloured mosaics usually in a military context, but I would expect this kind of thing in a slightly higher status building with somebody who wants to be comfortable. And I think that fits with a lot of the stuff we've got here. Those stories about the baths or heated rooms here, I think that does fit with it.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Helen, 3 days in sunny North Wales. What have you come up with?
Me, I've been in charge of finding nothing. I've had the most important places in the village, the scheduled ancient monuments. I found nothing in one and I found nothing in the other. So I've been sent to the chicken run, and there I did finally manage to find something. So I became an expert on local Roman mortaria as well as the natural.
Phil?
Oh, wow. I mean, I'm over the moon. I mean, we came looking for a bathhouse, and it's always nice to be able to put the record straight. We now know that there is no bathhouse. And then to cap it all, we've been able to confirm some of their results, which was this wonderful stone-built wing of a Roman building, tessellated floor, lovely floors. It's been, yeah, it's stonker, it really has.
What a great optimist you are.
I am!
What is it that we've got?
What we've got is a whole complex of buildings here. Quite what it is more difficult to interpret, because it's clearly not a Roman villa, and neither is it something like a Roman fort. Well, Stuart came up with the idea that this is actually the nearest supply of limestone to Chester. And why that's important is you need vast amounts of limestone to make lime for the mortar and the plaster and everything when you're building the permanent fort there. And you'd need a gang of labourers basically to do that. So we probably ought to think of this as some sort of industrial military compound of people who are producing all that material to send back over to Chester, and I quite like that idea.
It's wonderful having a quiet little conversation at the end of the day with just the 5 of us and 350 local people. Go away!